welcome to the Stanley Street Social Podcast presented by the TAC. The road belongs to us all. It's great to be here with Campbell Flakemore and Max Gawn to unpack the Tour de France. It didn't seem that long ago that we were sitting downstairs, excited about the tour. Campbell termed it the best preview of the year, the biggest preview of the year. And now it's all done. The Tour de France is over.
A little bit disappointing, isn't it? What do we do now? We're back in lockdown, obviously doing this virtually, which is nowhere near as good as being in HQ. And there's no Tour de France to watch. There's no European Championships football to watch. And hopefully Max and the AFL can keep things ticking over and we'll at least have that to watch.
There's one thing I've learned throughout COVID is sport tends to go on no matter what. We had a little pause with NBA, I think, last year, and AFL had a pause, but most other sports just keep going. So hopefully AFL can keep going. There's a bit going on today, but it's funny. Tour ends, and now we all look for the next cycling race. Now we're all experts in the gold medal race over in Tokyo.
Point.
Which is, I mean, it's a Tour de France preview review show, but Rog and Pog in the same team v Van Aert and Evenepoel is like, that is the best thing ever.
Yeah, it's going to be a doozy. And it's a good time zone for us too, Saturday afternoon. I'm not sure what day you're playing this weekend, Max, but it'll be one to tune into for sure.
It does feel a little bit weird that the Olympics is going on, though. The Olympics is happening.
Does it?
But yeah, no, it's something about
surprised?
The Olympics. It's something I'm not surprised, but there's something about the Olympics because there's just so many countries coming together. In a wild time. But more importantly, we've got the review to do. We've got the unpack to go through each team. I think it was the Giro unpack, we adopted AFL official ranking system of 1 to 7. Thanks to Max for introducing that.
And let's be clear, 7 is like 7's Wayne Carey kicking 10.
Yeah, unheard of.
Yeah.
Did they go to 0 or is 1 the lowest?
No, I've received a 0 before. Got subbed out with 1 handball.
Able to make an impact.
Wasn't my best game, Alex.
All right, well, we're going to 0, and it'll be interesting to see if 0 gets a feature in this run sheet. Just question: how do we feel about teams that lost in really vital riders early, like Caleb Ewan, Rog? How does that affect someone's score?
I think they'll be taken into consideration. I think all riders lost someone really, apart from Ineos, but Ineos had 2 riders fall. So that doesn't really help Ineos's case, but it will be taken into consideration. I don't think they get excused because some people just fall for fun. Like Ineos would be going in knowing that Thomas is going to fall at least 4 times. So bike handling skills, it's no surprise that Pog just stays up.
Yep. And I think it is a credit to a team that can regroup after losing such a key rider. Well, maybe we'll start with the Tour de France as a whole. What do you guys give the Tour de France, this year's edition of the race?
Just out of 10, just for simplicity, before we move on to the teams, out of 7, just to confuse things actually even more.
Why are we going back to the old school?
Out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7. It was okay. It had some good moments. It had some surprises, but ultimately we didn't really see a hotly contested Tour de France for the yellow jersey. There were some other nice battles going on in the background, but Pogacar was just too strong and his team was up to it as well. And there was no one, maybe Vingegaard in the 3rd week was at the level, but he was already too far behind. But overall it was okay, but not one for the ages, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think having those massive time gaps so early in the race just didn't help the race. And maybe the parkour was probably not suited to creating a really good race. I've got some gripes. One of the best things to watch was the intermediate sprints and the KOM points because Pog was gone. They got to do something different so Pogacar doesn't win the polka dot. Poles was great to watch, and double points on the two big climbs at the end of stages in the third week. Of course, that's going to be won by a GC rider.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And the other thing, which is quite controversial because he lit up the first week, but Van der Poel tore everyone apart, and then they're all cooked for 2 weeks. And he just goes on his merry way and off he goes to the Olympics. Like, he come and rode a 1 week stage race and rode every stage as hard as he could. And the whole peloton was absolutely cooked.
Yeah. I mean, the first 10 days was absolutely chaotic, wasn't it? It seemed like there was no easy day. The pace was on all day, all night, especially that 250K stage that Mohoric won, where Van der Poel was in the jersey. He was making a significant impact on that stage, and then he loses the jersey and goes home.
So all those things adding up, I don't think added to the spectacle, but it's still the Tour de France, and I love watching it.
Of course.
The GC battle was probably not the highlight. I think the stage wins were more something that I was interested in this time around.
Mm-hmm. Did it seem like there were so many solo stage winners this year compared to other years? It seemed every stage was just one guy coming to the line, which isn't super exciting, really. I mean, we get to see the battle to that point, but there were a lot of times where you knew 20K to go who the winner was going to be.
I think, and we missed out on one of the best dynamics in cycling, the breakaway bunch kick, where everyone's just playing cat and mouse. There's always one or two cold-hearted blokes in there that are just willing to put it all on the line for the win, and a couple of youthful, excited riders in there. So we missed out on that dynamic by having just, solo guys going to line. The team number one on the start list, last year's winner, UAE Team Emirates, took home the GC in just like, it just seems so easy. It just seems so easy. The biggest moment of excitement was when Vingegaard almost popped Pog on Ventoux, but even then came back on the breakaway. They were just too good. And I think, like, in a team dynamic sense, they had a solid team, but it was almost like they got it too easy as well. It wasn't like the team was ever under stress.
Yeah, I mean, they copped a little bit of flack at times, but when you got a leader that strong, you're always going to be silenced. And he did a couple of good celebrations, thanking the team. But yeah, you're right. They were never really put under significant pressure. That day that Mohoric won, the first day, that was a big day for them. They had to chase hard for 250K. And I was a little bit worried they maybe didn't have the cattle, like the rouleurs, to pull for that long. But I'm sure Mikkel Bjerre earned his paycheck on that stage. But then Rafa Maker and Formolo, some of their performances in the mountains were as good as we've seen from those blokes for a good 5 years. So they were up to the challenge. And overall, the team was actually really strong and rarely looked like they were going to cough up the win.
Ranking?
Well summed up, Campbell. Well summed up.
I think if that's not a 7, I don't know what is. Winning Tour de France by 5 minutes, winning 3 stages, strong team performance.
That's an individual rating. I still don't think he's the clear winner of the Tour in terms of how I've left the Tour de France. I get he's won the yellow, but I think the Jumbo rider I think Van Aert's the clear winner of the Tour.
But from a team perspective, UAE, generally speaking, do you think they deserve a 7?
I don't give him out as...
I know. Maybe I'm a little bit trigger happy on the 7. Maybe I should hold my horses.
I'll go 6 because we didn't see Hershey do literally anything, and Micah and Formula were only solid in that third week, but they only needed to be in that third week, to be fair. If Ineos had all 4, like I said, if Ineos had all 4, I think they would have struggled. I think the best thing that happened to obviously Pogacar was Rob crashing, but it also hurt Ineos because they needed Rob as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But 6. I'll go 6.
He's sticking with a 7, Campbell?
I think so. I think it was they never come under any real stress. 3 stage wins.
I think that goes underrated. They won 3
important.
stages as well.
Yeah.
Not quite enough to get 100% from Max, but I think it's a 7 from me. For the official record, it's a 7.
Okay.
Team Jumbo Visma. As you mentioned, Rog out early. Rog out was a massive out for the Tour de France. That would have just completely changed the dynamic of when Pog's going wild, there would have been another guy there, I feel.
Yeah, and they also lost Tony Martin, Robert Hessink, Kruijswijk later on in the tour. To be fair, I don't think he was there early on anyway. We said in the preview, let's tip as if one of them's going to crash.
Yep.
It's quite funny. One did. I'm not sure which way you guys went, but I went the Pog way, which we'll talk about later on. And I was so impressed. Like, that is an impressive team effort with 4 riders. Like, Van Aert won. We can go into Van Aert. Everyone's talked about it in 3 stages and 3 different formats. It's phenomenal. You just knew he was going to win the bunch sprint at the end after he won the TT. You knew he wanted to do that. And then Sepp Kuss only really turned it on for one day, but it was one day that was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And Vingegaard was super impressive, and Tunison was also impressive. So the 4 riders that made it to Paris were really impressive.
Yeah, that lead out from Tunison on the Champs-Élysées was as good as you'll see. He was pretty quiet throughout. I mean, what we saw anyway. I'm sure he was doing some good things behind the scenes, but have 4 riders lose your leader, lose significant other players, and to have 4 stage wins and second on the general, it's incredible, and it really provides them with a good problem to have for next year. Do you go Roglic or do you go Vingegaard for the general?
So
probably something to discuss later.
He's in your GC frame now.
Sure. Well, he has to be, doesn't he? Like,
second on the Tour de France.
Second on Tour de France, correct? Yeah.
He's also got all the attributes. He's small. He can time trial. He's obviously got the composure to string together 3 weeks. He didn't blow up on any days wildly. There's a lot to like about this guy, and also a lot to like about what Jumbo have kind of created in this pathway to become a GC leader. I think if Rog left, they would have been a bit exposed on the GC front. Heaps of strong climbers, but for someone to pull it together for 3 weeks, I think they're a bit exposed. But with Vingegaard there now, there's a nice little succession plan for them after Rog is gone. Score?
I'll let Max go first. Max lead us off.
So I'm going to even them off. I reckon they're as impressive as the team that won it. So the funny thing is, you guys can't give these guys a 7, but
yeah, that's probably
I can give them
correct.
The score of a 6. I thought they had the rider of the tour in Wout van Aert, and they had the youngest, the best young rider minus Pogacar is a freak at 22. So they've got some 2 genuine talents. A 6 for me.
It's a 6 from me too. Yep.
Lock it in. Now things get a bit more interesting. Ineos Grenadiers, the most expensive lineup on the team sheet, the biggest budget in the world. A pretty rocky tour for Team Ineos for me. They're the Tour de France specialists. They've built the whole team on the Tour de France.
They did it this year.
And I know Carapaz still finished on the podium, but it felt like the podium was so far from the winner. It just didn't quite have the same feel about it.
Yeah, well, obviously they were impacted early with crashes. That's only a partial excuse in a way. Everyone had crashes. There's always going to be crashes at the Tour de France. I would have loved to have seen Thomas, Porte, and Carapaz, in a 3-up pronged attack. I think that would have caused some problems for UAE. I don't think Teo's level was really good enough to compete. He really only had one day where he contributed, and that was on Luzardi then. They didn't win a stage either. They tried a couple of times to put Pogacar under pressure on Ventoux, ended up just losing Luke Rowe. He was OTL on that stage. So they tried to do something, but never really came to fruition. I don't know where they go from here, because to beat this guy, you got to come up with something new, and I don't know what to do.
They sort of resembled Movistar this Tour de France. just a tiny bit.
An expensive Movistar.
Yeah, their best rider of, like, I did like a little top 15 sort of riders that I was impressed with over the tour, and Castroveo would have been the one who could have made it. He's amazing. He's rode Giro into
He's
Tour.
everywhere.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and had a crack at the TT on stage 22.
Yeah, he overtook the Spanish champion, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. But
funny, the stage they tried to win was Geraint Thomas tried to take off on the ride into Paris.
On the Champs.
He's just thought maybe that's the stage for him. That's. I mean, they'd be disappointed. I hope they look at it and see it's 7 minutes down, not third.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Carapaz. That's why I like him to Movistar. Carapaz kept firing shots. Movistar fires shots every time they can. So apart from this tour, which we'll get into, but that's Port. I think he was crook. People were saying he was crook. Not sure why he continues to ride if he's crook.
Yeah, because I mean, there was no issue with his form. He won the Dauphiné in the lead up.
And he normally thrives in this kind of supportive role.
Yeah, that role where you can not lose time, but there's no real pressure. And of course, we know Thomas. He had a massive crash. Just got through that stage that he crashed. But yeah, they're really going to have to go back to the drawing board and try and find a way to beat UAE going forward because, I don't know whether they have the rider to do it. Like, is Carapaz the rider to beat Pog? I don't know. I don't know if he is.
I think it was disappointing for me not to see that scenario where just the leaders are left and Ineos has Port, Gegenhardt, Thomas, Carapaz all there. Like it never seemed like we're even close to that kind of situation where they could use their team to put others under pressure. And I just think I really like Richard Carapaz.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Star.
Yeah,
but you just can't see him climbing to the level of Rog and Pog.
Or having TT either to beat them that way.
And then also you throw Vingegaard in there from a TT perspective. And Vingegaard's climbing is just going to get better and better. It's the only thing that they have in their inventory is Egan Bernal.
Yes.
Will be back next year. You feel like he can?
Yeah. He's the one. He has to do the GC at the Tour de France next year. Like, do they go back to that old school style that won them 6 or 7 tours? I'm not too sure.
They're going to clean up around the races that the Slovenians aren't there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one's going to the Volta. I think Rog might be, but like Adam Yates is probably a strong chance to do well there. Bernal, if he goes to the Giro again, or whoever goes to the Giro next year, will be a good chance to win. But it's that tour. I wanted to see a more stage win mindset once they realised Carapaz was 6 minutes down. Like, they hardly got in breaks, and if they did, like Van Baal and Castroveo were brought back.
Yeah,
it was a weird sort of mindset.
And Kwiatkowski clearly had the legs to win from a breakaway situation that stage on Ventoux. When he was pulling, there was under 10 guys left, so he clearly had the strength to go in one of those breakaways in the mountains and try and get a win. But they were obviously hanging fat that Pogacar was going to have a bad day, but never really happened, did it?
It didn't even come close to happening. And that's what they were so good at last year when the Tour went pear-shaped, where the Giro went pear-shaped from a GC perspective. They came back and got some stage wins out of it and ended up with Teo for the overall for the Giro. But yeah, they went all in on Carapaz, and it wasn't. There was never the scenario where you're like, oh, he's got him on the ropes here.
Yeah.
What score does that yield them?
It's below. So if trademark's 4, they can't go back and say they've got a trademark. So they're probably a 50 mil budget. They're a 2. That's harsh, but they're a 2.
Yeah, I was going to say a 3.
Because of Castroveo and Carapaz?
Well, yeah, I mean, they still got a podium, but their expectations would have been yellow jersey. And if not yellow jersey, at least be close, at least be fighting for it, and maybe jag a stage win somewhere along the line. But they weren't close, didn't get close to a stage. So overall, you could say it's subpar not quite our trademark, as Max has just outlined.
Do you think that for Ineos, with that kind of question of what's next, like where do they go from here, is the Pogs manager just, sniffing around Ineos going, well, what's the number? What would you pay? What would you pay for me? Like, I'm your solution. It's here.
I'm pretty sure he's getting a nice clip from UAE. I'm sure they're not short on money over there. I'm sure he's got it all his own way as well. Like, it's now his team, isn't it? If he was to go to Ineos, he'd have to operate under Dave B's regime. I'm sure at UAE, it's all him. He's got his people. He's got his processes. So I don't know. It's a good point though, Alex. Would the checkbook really come out from Ineos to go after Pog?
It's going to be a good tour next year though, with Bernal back.
Yeah, Bernal's the
like
answer
that.
For sure.
I like that. Bernal's the answer. I'm giving him a 3.
Yep.
3 for the podium. Stuck in there, but yeah, under par. Israel Startup Nation.
What a team.
Froome got through the tour.
Yeah, he did. He got the miles in the legs.
Andre announced his retirement.
Mm-hmm. Dan Martin was busy at times throughout the tour.
Decided to sit with the GC group on stage 17, I think, and come 5th.
Yep, just to show that he had good legs.
Yep.
Woods had a little bit of a dip at the KOM jersey.
He did. Yeah, I mean, he was good enough to win a stage for sure. Just a few things didn't quite go his way. He had that crash when Mollema? I think when Mollema won his stage, he had that crash on the downhill, and there was maybe some other times he had some issues, but overall a pretty quiet tour from them. But did we really expect big things? Probably not.
Is Woods the worst descender in the peloton?
Could be. It's possible. Although on that day,
every time he was in the break and there was a descent, he crashed.
Yeah, well, that day that Dylan Toons won, he was following Izagirre, my man, down the downhill, who is traditionally a pretty good descender, and that was in the wet, and Woods managed to stay with him. So I think when he's following someone, Keno talked about this a lot on the coverage. If he follows someone on the downhill, he's fine. But when he crashed in that breakaway, he was leading the pack and got himself unstuck. So yeah, it's definitely possible, Max, that he is the worst in the peloton.
It must be a horrible feeling knowing that that's your weakness.
Yeah.
Like out of all of the weaknesses you could have, you just don't want it to be descending.
No. And it's, you know what, it is bloody scary going downhill off mountain passes, 90
You're putting your life on the line.
Piss and rain, putting your life on the line. There's Lycra and a bit of a helmet protecting you. Like, it is awful. And, I don't think we've been, too hard on him here. Like, if anyone's doing that, hats off to him. Like, it's not easy.
I just want to address one thing. I was in some good Twitter banter throughout the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that Goldstein was the token Israeli call-up. Probably shouldn't have got a call-up. So he's beaten Chris Froome, as has Greipel on the general. I'm not sure.
4-time Tour de France stage winner.
I understand what Froome's doing. So Froome, what Israel, they wanted the marketing stuff. They wanted Chris Froome back on the tour, get a bit of publicity. But even that, like, he wasn't on camera.
No,
they didn't talk about him. He got dropped and he got dropped. Like, I don't even think that worked.
What do you think, Alex? Big marketing operator yourself. Do you think there was some value in Froome being there?
Not really. No. I think it potentially could have been in his contract that he has to do the Tour de France.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we're past that point of like Froome returning. Like, is he going to get to? If we're at that point where there was a bit of hype around him, and it was like, oh, is he going to crack? Is he going to hang in there? Yes, but I don't think anyone thought he was going to get even close. He announced that he wasn't going for GC and wasn't close to a stage win. Like, there was nothing. There was really nothing for the French media to be interested in.
He rode on the front one day when they were trying to get Woods into the break, or they were trying to control the break real early on in the stage, and that's all I saw of him.
It's an expensive ruler.
Yeah, I think they would have been better off taking Ben Hermans. He at least would have been able to go in a break and try and do something. But I think you're right. It must have been in his contract to do the tour, or that they saw some serious value in taking him just as a name.
And they must be pleased now that they don't have to take Andre to the tour again. Like,
who's going to be in the gruppetto for them?
Mate, he's got that experience.
It just, yeah. He's never gonna win anything. Never gonna come close to winning anything. But they took him and I think Zabel as well for his lead out.
Yeah,
just to run top 10 every time. Score?
2.
Yeah, I'm happy with. Oh, they got a big budget though. You should judge them for that, but I'll go 2.
Yeah, I think they're a 2.
Yep.
Trek Segafredo, stage win for the raffle approach of who's on the start list. Just pick your name out of pick names out of a hat. They've come out with a stage win.
Yeah, Boca, one of the podcast favourites.
Yeah.
He did it differently. He didn't go in every break. He decided just to go in one.
Yeah. And he was the first to attack out of that group, and they just set up and watched him go into the distance. And he's running no computer on his bike either. Real old school stuff from Boca.
How good's that?
That's bike racing.
It is. It's just off touch and feel. So he's a good rider, and we always joke that he's going to run a top 10 in a Grand Tour, but he went down the stage hunting approach, and they were doing it all tour. Kelly on Ellison was always trying. Julian Bernard, Jasper Stuyven had a couple of good days as well. But I think it was important, them to get a stage win. You could probably say that's a pass.
Yeah, the stage wins are hard to come by. I think, what are we? Quick Step 5, Jumbo 3, UAE, Jumbo 5, UAE 3,
Bahrain 3,
and then Bora 2.
Yep.
It really
not much left.
There's not much left, is there?
So
Alpecin 2 as well.
Yeah, Alpecin 2. And then they shut up shop. Actually, no, Philipsen kept on coming second. That's unfair. I'll give him a 3. I don't think anyone was expecting anything from a GC point of view from Nibali or Mollema. I'll go 3.
I think
they're a 4.
Yeah, I'm in between. I think the stage win, like we just touched on, there was not that much to go around. So for them to get something out of it, to be active often, I'll probably give them a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Didn't quite get to that 4.
Not quite.
Isn't that the whole reason why we're out of 7 is so you can't go flush in the middle?
Well, they had have worked out in stage 19 when Stuyven took Tunes and Bernard were all in the break, and none of them wanted to do any pacemaking, and they ended up putting on a platter for Mahorich. So if they had to work that stage out, it would have been a 4 or 5.
Okay.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
The next team, Dakota Quickstep, as we just touched on, a 5-stage win, green jersey, exceptional lead outs all tour.
Yep. I'll start this one.
Please.
I'll start with my score. There are 6. And very close. If Alaphilippe did one more stage win, maybe a 7. That's like Cav's back. And all their team, the difference between Demar, I know Demar took Scottson out with him and took a couple of teammates out with him, but Quickstep made sure Cav didn't go out. They were all with him every day, apart from one rider who was up the road. It was either Alaphilippe or Coutinho. Casper Asgreen was super in the TT, very stiff. There is a big 4 in cycling, and it's the guys who won all the stages. They're all streets ahead of every other team at the moment, and Quickstep are leading the way. 6 for me.
Talk about taking Froome to the Tour, Cambo, from a marketing awareness perspective. This team is present. Like, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's Cav out the back and the boys getting him through, whether it's them delivering a lead out, whether it's Alaphilippe going wild off the front, like, they have got it all. And they picked up some time in the jersey. It was only one day, but still got that opening stage win. which was huge for the squad, France, Alaphilippe. And then, I think their only hiccup is maybe Alaphilippe he felt like he was very present, but nothing was there. It was like, oh, hang on, he could be on here. He was always just doing heaps.
Did he potentially win stage 1 out of form?
I don't think so. I think that first stage was incredible. How he won that, how he attacked with 2K to go. No one could go with him. I just think his problem was he was just trying too much. He tried 15 times instead of trying 2 or 3. He maybe should have. This is us here sitting talking what the world championship do. Maybe look at 1 or 2 stages, but he was trying every day that there was half a sniff, and in the end, that cost him. He never really had the proper punch. But at the same time, there was so many people looking for the stage win, and as we know, we've watched enough cycling. There is a little bit of luck associated with getting in the breaks, especially at the Tour de France.
And also, let's not forget just the way that they crafted Cav winning the green jersey. Just making sure that it happened.
Yeah. But did anyone really see Cav doing that? I said at the start, I'm pretty sure you can go back and look at the tape, he'll win a stage, but I don't think anyone would have thought that he was going to win 4 stages, green jersey. I guess he was helped a little bit by the fact that Ewan crashed out. Demar also wasn't there, but you can only beat who's there. And I think he was actually really bloody quick, especially with that lead out from Morkov. He would have been very competitive against Ewan for mine.
I think the point deduction goes to him not following Morkov on the Champs. Lost his man.
It was messy, wasn't it, that sprint?
It's his security.
Yeah.
The guy that's taken you to every stage win.
They must have been super confused when Wanty come to the front and start riding the lead out for Van Poppel. And they'd be just sitting there going, what is going on?
But it was good to see. Teams made it hard for him.
Yes.
They just didn't give him, if you just sit there and try and follow the wheel of Cav in a sprint, good luck to you. At least cause some problems and cause some chaos. And it wasn't good for them. But did we all see the little clip of Cav before the start of stage 19 at the bus?
Spitting the dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that.
What do we think of that?
I don't know, Max. What do you think as a current athlete, like just spitting the goo in a high pressure environment at a team staff member?
Public.
No, we're big on body language and how we treat people around our football club. It wouldn't be handled well in-house. I reckon we'd talk about it, and I'm sure Quickstep would have. They probably returned the favour by not chasing the break in stage 19. Screw you, mate. You want to spit the dummy? Well, but I get he's got his heart on his sleeve, and there's guys like this. We have guys that constantly give away 50s for back chatting to umpires, and they wear their heart on the sleeve, but you got to make sure you address that because it'll cost you one day.
Yeah.
6?
I think a 6. Yeah. Very impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive.
Did they get a top 10? Did Coutinho get top 10? No.
Just outside, yeah. So 10th to 15th, I believe.
10th to 15th at 46 minutes down.
Yeah. He was 24 minutes down in 12th. Yeah.
Team movie star.
Can't wait for Series 3.
Yeah. Netflix there just licking their lips. Here we go.
Are they even going to be talking to Lopez, like in the bus? So is Lopez going to be shunned from the bus?
Surprised they didn't just give him his own jersey.
It's just like
it's a long way from Lopez, especially for last year when he was time trialing for the podium.
And his form going into it. I know he was riding almost nothing races in terms of the Tour de France, nothing races. I think he beat up Guy Martin in the race up the Vautour one day, and he also won stages against, I think Tolhawk was his major competitor somewhere else. So he was winning them, but he wasn't super competitive. I liked Mass. That's what you get from Mass. He's like Rigoberto Urán. He stays under the radar and just gets a little top 10 for you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're a big team. They should be wanting more. They weren't in the breaks. Well, Valverde was once, but didn't want to descend quick or something.
Yeah, Mass, he was he was good. He just had that one bad day. I think it was on the Col de Porte, the second last mountaintop finish. But you're right. He's that sort of operator. He's not exciting, really. Like he'll just sit in and follow the GC guys, and then in the third week you realise that he's fifth. You haven't seen him all tour. But then again, like he bounced back on Wazadi Den and was with the top guys. So if you can get that consistency, I don't think he's ever going to be able to challenge the top guys, but maybe he can fight for a third place on the podium at some point. But overall, a pretty uninspiring tour from Movistar.
I think their breakaway man injured early, Marc Soler. You would have seen him being in and around the stages that Van Aert won up the hill. Maybe actually not Van Aert because no one would have gone with him, but or Dylan Toons, some of those ones he would have been.
Yep. I think a 3 for me.
Oh, what's the 3 for?
Where do they earn those 3 points, Campbell?
For me, it's Mass's top 10. He was still 6th. He was 6th overall at the tour. I think that's good. That's a really good result. No?
All right.
Pogs just ruined the top 10. Like he just ruined that result of finishing top 10. Because if you're finishing top 10, you're at least 5 minutes off the pace.
Yeah.
Normally, you finish top 10, you were within that 5 minutes.
I mean, he's still 6 minutes off Vingegaard as well. So he wasn't really close to being there. But I'll stick with my 3.
Max?
3 as well. Oh no,
3?
2. I don't know. 2.
Yeah, I think there are 2. They needed something else. At least a stage or attacking a stage win would have been a pass. Bora Hansgrohe, Peter Sagan out, Bora Hansgrohe up. The day Peter left, Pollock just goes on the hunt.
That was always going to happen one day.
Did you sniff out any value there, Max?
I missed that. Well, I was on someone in the break. I can't remember the stage completely. Was Stuyven in the break? I reckon he might have been.
Possibly.
Yeah, I was on. If there's a big 4, like I said with Bahrain, Jumbo, who am I talking about? Ineos and not Ineos. Quickstep and UAE. I think these guys are just 5th. Like Conrad winning the stage and probably could have won a couple. Postelberger was super aggressive. Obviously, Niels Pollitt, Kelderman finishing 5th. And then also the first week, usually you see those like B&B and Wanty guys try and get in the polka dot. No, there was a World Tour team. Bora decided to put Schilling up the road and get him up the road. And that was fun as well. So they were entertaining.
Yep. Yeah, they were busy. And again, Kelderman, the sort of rider like Mas, doesn't do really anything exciting, but is there in the top 5 on the general. And 2 stage wins. I think that's a really good tour. I'm probably going to give them a 5.
It's funny on the Kelderman Massa run, not really doing anything. So a couple of O'Connor's post matches, he would talk about trying to stay with the big guys and forgetting where he's placed and not attacking and saving energy. That's what those guys were doing. It was so boring. And then O'Connor realised he had to ride boring.
Yep.
To make sure he didn't get gassed.
Yep.
I'll give him a 5. Oh yeah, 5 as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a 5.
Just one quick talking point from that. What's next for Peter Sagan? Is he kind of drifting into irrelevancy in cycling terms? Is that stiff?
There's a race there for him. I'm not sure what it is, but there is a race there.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to have him on the payroll on several $1 million a year anymore. Let's put it that way. If I'm a GM.
Yeah. I think he's got a lot of checks cashed away in the Caribbean somewhere, and he's going to be thereabouts, but I think he's more value than Froome.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, he's still there making an impact.
He's still Peter Sagan.
Yeah.
but you're not going to get 3 stage wins in a green jersey from the Tour de France.
You may get a green jersey. I'll give him that. He was,
Yeah.
I think the only stage we might have seen him. Did he crash in stage 4? I think stage 3 he podiumed, or maybe 4th.
We crashed with Caleb on that stage.
Yeah, that was kind of the end.
Yeah, so that was 4 or 3.
3. Yeah.
I agree. There is opportunity for the green jersey. I think the green jersey was solid, but like with Cav, there's kind of not a guarantee, but a pretty hard lock on winning multiple stages. It was always going to be tough for him to not win the green jersey. Whereas when there's a few more sprinters there, the stage is a bit more evenly distributed. I think there's a new race that will be created with Matthews and Sagan and those guys.
Yep.
Groupama FTJ. Gaudu on the podium for Max in the preview.
And to be fair, no, that was a horrible pick.
I don't think it was.
No, I think he was good considering
that bad day on Vontu when he was throwing up.
Yeah, then his TT at the end though. Like, that's when he's.
You know what?
He rides this horrible TT.
That was disappointing to see, because if he is going to be a GC rider, you need to polish up that TT, and the last TT in this Tour de France was a perfect opportunity to have a good TT, to do good preparation, to take it seriously without any real pressure. And it kind of just looked like he was going through the motions, just having a nice ride around the vineyards.
Correct.
So like, you know,
do the work.
That was a really good opportunity to take it seriously, and he just didn't. But he clearly had good legs still. It's just that one day where he got a little bit crook.
They're not as bad as you think. You think in your first head, you look at them and you go, they're a 1. I don't think they're as bad as you think. I think Kung's time trials were still impressive. Gaudu in the final week was impressive.
Yep.
I forget his name. Was it Amarali or?
Amaral, yeah, did that 100-kilometer pull on the front of that breakaway.
Yeah, he looked horrible at times with sickness as well, and even he rode a good TT on the final day. So like they. Some interesting performances. They're not as bad as you think. I think they're a 2.
Yeah, I think it too.
Yep.
Like losing one of their key riders, or maybe the key rider in Demar, who was going to chase stages. Maybe that performance at the Giro was kind of not as good as what we thought was the level at the Giro. A little bit low compared to a Tour de France bunch kick, because even when Demar was there, he was never really getting close, and the team wasn't really getting super organized either.
Yeah, where does this leave Demar? He's been hanging out for this opportunity. Finally, Pino's not the guy. And then a bit of a nothing tour.
A little bit.
Flat track bully.
Flat track bully. Port Adelaide.
I didn't say it. I think he's a flat track bully.
Cofidis.
Gawn.
Yeah.
Top 10.
He's apparently never done it, and he said his dream is to get top 10.
Yeah.
And did it the way Ben O'Connor got in the break. Didn't hold it as much as Ben O'Connor. It's got dropped almost every time since, but their biggest disappointment is Christophe Laporte. I think the first 2 stages suited him, and he looked hot. He didn't even get a top 10 in both, and then all the sprints, didn't make top 10 in almost all of them.
Yep. Jagged a second on stage 19 with Mahoric up the road, but he's second or first, it's chalk and cheese. The second's not good enough. I don't think they've won a stage at the Tour de France since Chavanel back in 2008 when he was riding for Cofidis. So that's a serious drought. And I mean, clearly there's not a whole lot of, importance on stage wins, because Cofidis keep pulling out the checkbook every year.
They need to spend some on a good French rider. Like, I understand they want a French rider, and Guy Martin is good, but they need to get one of these young talents like a Cosnefroy, who was disappointing this tour, or a Parapant, or just someone who could maybe get something for them.
Yeah. Yep.
Score?
You start, Max.
They were in every break. Perez was actually a really, really good tour from him. And Guy Martin top 10, so 2.
I'll say a 3. I think you got to match it up against what the expectations were at the start for them. And I think a top 10 and being active is probably about par.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. 3.
Yep.
Apologies.
Yep. What would a stage win have got them, Campbell?
I mean,
an 8?
I probably would have bumped them up to a 5, considering they haven't won since 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
Well, this could have been the tour for Viviani.
Yeah.
Actually, though.
Yeah. Yep. Oh well. With that
Albus and
Laporte lead out.
Albus and Phoenix. We touched on this off the top. Van der Poel was just so active in the first week to disappear and head off to the Olympics. So a good Tour de France though for a tier 2 team like that is value. Even if you only really your presence was only felt in the first kind of week.
Jeez, I almost see them as tier 1.
Yeah.
Well, I know they're not, but the way they
Yeah.
ride, and with Philipsen on every sprint, they challenged Quick Step at times, and interesting decision with Merlier, Philipsen. I know Merlier ended up leaving, but I think they made the call because Philipsen was going to be a chance to win the green jersey, so they switched it around for Merlier to ride for Philipsen. I don't think that was the right call. And I'm not just segueing a little bit. Do we know who's better out of Van der Poel and Van Aert yet? They've left us almost more puzzled post this Tour de France.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about Van Aert now. Van der Poel will go out and win the mountain bike, and then he'll be better. And then Van Aert will win something else at the end of the year. Like, it's just...
If there's stages that stick in your head from Tour de France, stage 2 will be in my head for years. Like, to attack to get the bonus time and then to attack again. Like, it's on a stage that obviously meant a lot to him with his family. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. And his performance in the time trial too, to hold the yellow jersey. I think was he top 5 in the TT? Like, I don't know when the last time he did a time trial.
If you go back and look at his time trial results, he's got nothing. Like, I don't think he's even tried in a time trial.
Yeah, that's probably what it is, that he's never actually had to try. Never really thought, never fancied a TT.
And then all of a sudden the team's buying Worthy's wheels from Andorra and driving them to the Tour de France to get him the top gear.
Yeah.
To Max's point on that stage, like, you forget how clutch that performance was.
Yeah.
Just taking the time bonus and then torching him up the final climb. Thanks for coming.
Because when he attacked on that first lap, I thought this is a play for this, like, the stage win from here. And like, he's got caught, his legs are shot. No, it was to get bonuses and then to attack again on the final climb and win the stage. It was super. It netted him 6 days in the yellow jersey too. They had 2 stage wins. I think it's a very strong 5. One Van der Poel left. There was a lot less presence in the team, but Philipsen was still competing, got mighty close on the Champs. So a 5, I think, from me. Stiff not to get a 6, but I'll go for a 5.
He's almost my favourite sportsman in the world at the moment, Van der Poel. I reckon he's an absolute rock star. Gives a little bit more than Van Aert. Van Aert's a bit closed with his reactions and emotions, and I'm loving Albus and Phoenix. I had one of the Smokies in my top 36 or whatever I did was Xandro Maurice.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually was one of those riders. He did a classic Bahrain domestique where he doesn't like not just dropping a lot of time. He wants to keep his time close to the GC guys. A top 20 for him, so not too bad. But
not bad.
I'll give him a 5 because if Van der Poel had stayed, that would have been unbelievable. He's already said he's staying for the next tour. He's doing the whole thing.
I think the Olympics is the only reason why he can leave the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Even though I still don't know how I feel about it.
Well, the reason I don't like it is because he destroyed the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Everyone's legs were absolutely cooked.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind it. The only legitimate reason is with the Olympics straight off the back of the tour. And Yeah, he'll be going all the way to Paris next year for sure.
Different approach to Fuglsang. He gave up the tour literally on stage 21. It did not start.
Bizarre, isn't it?
To prepare for the Olympics. Must have
I couldn't believe that at DNS. Bizarre.
On the Van der Poel showing more of emotion, did we see? It felt like Van Aert's celebration on the Champs after he won. It felt like it had a bit more. It had a bit more of him just opening up a touch.
That is the first time I've seen him open up a bit more.
His post-race was still pretty stock, but like him, like punching the air, like what did I just do on the Champs? As you would hope, because after what he's just delivered, but it was pretty raw from Van Aert. I think they're. Remind me why Merlier left.
He was almost out of time limit, to be honest. He was really struggling out the back. I think he was sick.
Yeah. I'm going to give him a 4. Van der Poel messed up stage 1. He got lost in the wheels. And then he left for the Tour de France, losing some points there. Merlier, they should have ridden for him longer. They shouldn't have ridden for Philipsen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Merlier should have needed to be in better nick to get through the Tour de France because he could have won a lot. Him v Cav. So if we're running off what they could have, like their potential, I'm going to give him a 4.
So Philipsen's finished in the top 3 6 times. And they're still 4.
He's a top 5 sprinter. You don't want to be a top 5 sprinter. Like Campbell said, after second, whatever. Unless it's Murkoff, no one cares who comes second.
Okay.
What do you give him, Max?
Yeah, I was 5. He's my favourite rider in the world. I love their team.
Yep.
But I like Van der Poel doing the entire tour with Van Aert, the entire tour. That's exciting. That's an exciting piece.
I mean, I know we spoke about Van Aert before, and I don't want to make this podcast any longer than it has to be, but is Van Aert a chance to go gold?
Yes, absolutely.
Golds.
If the race pans out for him, you've got to have a little bit of luck in these one-day races, but there's no reason why he can't. And I mean, his time trial, oh my God, I'm not sure if you saw, there's a little bit of a tailwind, maybe a touchdown hill, but he's just chuffing along at 70k an hour. That is some serious horsepower going through that bike. So for sure, I mean, there's going to be guys that have had specific preparation for the TT, but if you can do a time trial like that at the end of the Tour de France, there's no reason why you can't do one a week later. Exactly what Brad Wiggins did in 2012.
Good point. Apologies for the segue.
EF Education Nippo. Where'd Rigo end up?
Does it always feel like Rigo is just going to blow to pieces at some point?
Well, it did until he finished 3rd.
I did not think it'd be on the Tourmalet. This seemed like a weird time to blow up. Like,
what do you mean? You either this is a weird place to blow up. I won't blow up here.
I get how hard the Tourmalet is, but there's so many in the group. It wasn't too hot of a pace.
Isn't the Tourmalet your climb? Is it the one that you've ridden up?
I didn't break on it. I managed to get up.
Rico's gone from a pretty a good-looking 3rd on the podium, top 5 almost guaranteed, to finishing 18 minutes down in 10th.
Explosion.
That is an explosion.
But it wasn't just like an isolated explosion. It was the next day he was just not at the level again. So, and I don't know what his how he fared in the TT on the last.
That is what you thought he would have been.
His time trial.
Yeah, you thought he was going to, because he's normally a good time trial, so I think that helped him. Was he 3 minutes down or something?
Yeah, he's 3:06. Yeah. So, yeah, 20 seconds behind O'Connor. So, yeah, really, I mean, was it sickness? I mean, that's really the only thing that could justify like three bad days rather than just an isolated moment of difficulty. But yeah, big explosion from Rigo and kind of left them with a bit of nothing in the end.
They threw everything trying to get a stage win. I'll give them that. They had lots of guys in breaks, and they tried. I mean, was it Higuita was with Quintana and O'Connor's stage?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Magnus Court was obviously quite aggressive as well. I think they're more prominent than a team. Like, we're going to go to AG2R soon. I like EF were like better than AG2R, but AG2R got a fourth. So it's interesting. I don't think EF, when you look at it, are as bad as what you think as well. I think they really tried to throw everything at a stage win. Bissinger was stiff in both time trials. I'll give them a 2, which is harsh, but they were impressive as well.
I agree with everything you just said. I'll give them a 2 as well. Yep.
Sign off on that. AG2R, Citron, big Australian presence. Ben O'Connor 4th. Don't know if any of his teammates knew he was in 4th, but he finished 4th.
That's literally where I'm going to get. If we took Ben O'Connor out of that team, they're a 1. They're a flat 1.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that day that GVA went on the suicide mission.
Oh, yeah.
Helping his teammate.
Who'd he go up the road with that day? He went up the road with another experienced rider.
It was him and Klug.
Roger Klug, yeah. You know, interesting that they did that. I guess show the jersey, get some TV time. But you're right, without Ben O'Connor, they were pretty quiet. I mean, Mickey Shah and Nason, GVA at times were helping Ben through some tricky times. After Ben got himself that stage win, then they sort of shifted their focus a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he gave him a real chop out, didn't he?
I just love the day after he put himself back in potential. It's like, all right, GC, Ben O'Connor's back. He's on GC. And it was a day where there was a climb out of the holes, and there's just AG2R riders going wild, trying to get in the hardest break around the world by their young GC riders just kind of flapping in the wheels, going, "Oh, what are we doing here?"
Yeah.
It didn't feel like there was a whole lot of direction coming from head office as to how we're going about supporting Ben O'Connor. But for his credit, like crashing early, losing time, bouncing back, putting himself in the move, a stage win, cracking on Von 2, but not cracking so much that he was completely out of the GC, and then pulling together a full 3-week Grand Tour. That's huge.
Like 4th in the tour. That is such a big result. Like, people might say, oh, he got like some easy time in the breakaway that he won, but he also lost a truckload of time in the first week too. So that kind of evened things up a little bit. His time trials were solid. And yeah, that stage on Von 2, he could have easily cracked and lost 15, 20 minutes, but dug in, was just that was just an isolated cracking, unlike Rigo's, where he completely blew up. And yeah, I think he might be going back to the negotiation table with the team after that performance, even though he just signed 3-year extension after Dauphiné. I think he'd be going back again because that was incredible.
I'd like
it really
him.
was.
I'd like him now at a Giro or Volta. I know he's done the tour. That's going to be pretty hot next year. I'd like to see a Giro Volta type performance, a Jai Hindley type performance.
And you know what? Those 2 races probably suit him a little bit better, a little bit more unscripted, suits the attacking riders. Maybe the Giro a little bit more with some filthy weather because he showed that he can handle that just fine. Struggled a little bit in the heat, which is a little bit weird coming from Western Australia. I thought the heat wouldn't be a problem for him.
Loving the cold and hating the heat.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the Giro, he could really have a crack at it next season.
Is he from Western Australia? Is he? I didn't hear Keno.
Yeah, from Perth. So not the ACT.
If there's Keno bingo, geez, you'd get drunk pretty quickly. He says a lot of the same stuff a lot, but it's hard. Commentating cycling would be so hard.
Like they start in the neutral, in the depart fictif.
There's only so much you can talk about Bonema.
I think a 5, a very strong 5.
Yeah, as much as I hate that team, UAE the same. UAE are horrible if you take out Pog. So you got to look at it like that. So 5 as well.
Yep. Okay, Samsek.
Finished in the Mini Cooper. Finished in the Mini Cooper.
How many-
2 riders or 3?
I think 3.
Warren showed his face a few times.
Was he actually in the race?
He was there, yeah.
Buhani featured in a few top 10s in sprints before pulling out to make sure Cav had no competition in the sprints.
He looked okay, Buhani, didn't he?
He did, but then he also had that bad press hanging onto cars in the mountains. And you know what? That comes as absolutely zero surprise to me that he's that sort of operator.
Yeah.
Quintana was busy in the mountains.
Quintana was busy. Quintana looked like he was taking them to a almost a pass mark with the KOM jersey. He's climbing well, putting himself in moves, and then the KOM jersey got a bit hot for him.
He earned his paycheck.
Yeah, he did. Overall, though, it's probably a 2 from me.
It's a 2 from me.
Yeah, I'll go 3.
3.
Yeah, they were present. They had 3 riders, and the last week they kept on all 3 of them trying to get into breaks. And Quintana was solid.
Team DSM last year, we ripped them in the tour preview, and then they delivered on, I think, 3 stage wins. This year, we gave them a bit more credit in the tour preview.
Yeah.
Not
We went
so
easy
much,
on him,
Not
didn't
so
we?
much.
This is one handball subbed off during the
and that handball was ineffective.
It was.
Wyatt.
Talk about your presence not being felt.
Oofed.
They mistimed every sprint. I know Bowl wasn't on legs, but even then, like they were on the front at 5K sometimes. Like they just looked amateur compared to Quickstep in those sprints, and then not getting people in breaks. Even like in the last stage, did they call Cray Anderson back to come help out with Bowl or something?
I don't remember the specifics of it, but
Tej Banu might have been the man who could have got in breaks and crashed out, but they were disappointing.
very disappointing. No real agenda. Like Cess Bowl was never really at the level that he was last year. Crow Anderson, he had a crack, I think, the day that Toons won, that sort of medium / proper mountain stage. But overall, just super, super disappointing. And then to have that bad press coming during the tour that there was an issue about Crow Anderson wanting to have his seat height adjusted. And the management saying that wasn't a rider's issue, which is very concerning if true. So all in all, I mean, it's pretty close to a 0.
0 for mine.
0. Well, what if you?
Where do they get their marks? Where do you give them a mark?
1.
I concur.
You can't. There's nothing to argue. It's a 0.
Is that our first official 0?
I think it's the first official 0. It'd be good to rewind the tape too to see what we gave them last year.
I reckon they would have gone close to a 7.
Lotto Soudal, Caleb Ewan out early, stage 3, didn't get the opportunity to gallop at all. Big out.
This is where you question at the start about how do we take in crashes. I think this team is the one where you take in the crash. They tried. De Gent didn't have legs. Van Moor had legs but couldn't maybe pick the wrong breaks or wrong days for his breaks. And Harry Sweeney was probably the highlight of the tour, to be honest. From an Australian point of view, that's a bit stiff on Ben O'Connor, but he was up there. And like that, did you guys know he could TT like that at the end?
I didn't know. Not like that was just him just being super strong at the end of 3 weeks, wasn't it? Like he just held his form, and the stage that Pollitt won. You know, arguably Sweeney was the strongest rider in that group. Probably just a little bit of inexperience and excitement got the better of him.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think without him, geez, they'd be pretty close to a 0-2. I know Caleb crashed out, but I mean, you've still got 7 guys there and there's still 18 stages to make an impact. But overall, they were pretty quiet, I thought.
Yeah, they're not having great Grand Tours. I know Caleb was super in the Giro with his stage wins, but once he pulled out, there wasn't much going on, and then he's crashed in this one. Once again, not much going on. Losing a sponsor. I'm pretty sure Sudal is out. Don't know where I heard that, but they need to bring Wallens to the Volta. They just need one backup option.
Yep.
It shows how valuable too, like those guys that can turn from riding for ROG into stage wins, into regrouping with GC, like that kind of dynamic rider that can do it all is so valuable. Like this squad on paper, we're talking it up. It's like, all right, they're all in for Caleb. They'll potentially going to win 4 or 5 stages. But if it goes wrong, you come out with potentially a duck egg.
Can you afford to have Degenkolb there instead of Phil Gill? Does Phil Gill really need to be there for Caleb's lead out? Can Degenkolb come just ride his own race?
Yeah. I think that just shows that you need to have some sort of backup option. I know, like, it's really nice to have like an all-in for a sprinter and all-in for a GC rider, but if that rider crashes out, what do you do next? So I think, Degenkolb in for Gilbert probably would have been a move they wish they could have done in hindsight.
Harry Sweeney gets him to a 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think they get a 1.
Bahrain Victoria, similar, same stage as Caleb. Jack Haig on big GC potential crashes out. Stage 3. But in comparison, you look at that squad, and it's a completely different squad in the way it's assembled. But you look at them losing their GC guy, and what they've been able to create out of it is chalk and cheese. Big tour.
They all rode as a team. Like when it was Cabrelli's turn to go for a stage or go for the points, they all helped out Cabrelli. When it was Tunes' turn, they all helped out Tunes. When Poles was going for points, they all helped out Poles. They had so many numbers in the break. They won the team class by 20 minutes or something. Like I said earlier, I wish Poles could have the polka dot because I reckon that's what the King of the Mountain jumper really is for. Tunes was super impressive. The only thing that lets them down was their police raid, but that seems to happen once a tour. So
that's really interesting, isn't it? Like that seems like it's just not random. Like, do they get a tip off for that?
Well, the quote was how successful their year's been, which is correct. They've had an unbelievable year with like really impressive rides. Like who's the fellow who didn't come to tour but rode the
Pardon.
And then Gino Mader was riding impressive break rides, and Mohoric this time around with Tunes. Like it, they're probably just going off like backing it in. There's something going on.
Like I'm not sure who. I think Alex touched on it. Yeah, losing Haig, losing their leader, but adapting super quickly and getting a lot out of this Tour de France. So 3 stage wins, really active in the KOM. It's a strong 5 for me.
I was really enjoying Sonny's work as well.
And Sonny really active, second on that stage behind O'Connor somehow.
Sonny, like Matthews comes second, but Sonny's the one that we look at and go, yeah, he was the better rider there. Like it's weird, that setup. I'm so disappointed for Hagee. Like that team was flying and he was flying. That could have been anything.
Yeah, especially with like Thomas crashing out, Roglic crashing out. You know, there was genuine podium potential there.
That was back. Carapaz.
Yeah.
So 5 as well. Oh no, 6.
6 for the regroup.
6 for like 3 stage wins without like Cobrelli couldn't beat a top 10 of the bunch sprint, and they got 3 stage wins.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with a 6. That's big. Team Bike Exchange.
Bilbao got us a top 10 as well.
He did.
Yeah.
Filthy bike riding style, that guy. Looks awful on a bike.
You see the TT when the mic fell out?
Yeah. Mess.
Team Bike Exchange.
Hello.
Big hope for the Stanley Street Social representative of Lucas Hamilton,
Friend of the podcast.
a friend of the podcast. Unfortunate tour for him. I think. Looking at him, he just came in way too hot to those lead-up races and just wasn't in super nick. And then an unfortunate crash pulled him out. But a big learning curve for Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Tough first week for a
Tough first week.
Yeah.
Grand Tour debut as a GC rider.
Thoughts on the rest of the squad? Then they just went swinging at Matthews hard for green.
They seem to have some guys with really good legs. Jules Jensen wrote an incredible tour. I wish he got a chance to be able to go for a win himself because he had legs. And then Matthews' lead-out man, Mezgec, had legs as well. So it would have been interesting if Matthews was out of points, if Mezgec could be able to get up the road and be able to beat Pollitt on that stage or something like that, because they both had really good legs, those two Bike Exchange riders. Matthews' second green jersey, second on stage one, I think, was it? Did you get second on stage one?
Yeah, second on stage one.
Best of the rest.
He's the king of the best of the rest.
If he's not Australian, do we talk about him as much? Like, are they talking about him on the French podcast right now?
Probably not. Probably not at all. Esteban was okay at times. Durbridge had good legs, but he was in that move on Vontu, which was interesting. Like, they were just like, oh, well, we've just got someone in there. We're represented. That's enough.
He said it himself. He said when he got over the climb the first time up, he goes, I can't believe I'm still here with the world champ and Van Aert. Like, why are you getting in the break if you can't believe you're still there?
Yeah. Well, he is strong as an ox. There's no doubt about it, but probably not the right guy to have in the move. Seemed just like even when Lucas was there in the first week, just looked like they, you wouldn't have known that they were properly doing a GC and wouldn't have known that it was for Lucas. They're just scattered everywhere. They're never really looking like a team that's organised. And then, shifting the attention to the green jersey, just trying to salvage something out of the tour, never really looked like it was going to come to fruition. They were just hoping that Cav was going to get timed out one day. That was their best bet.
They had a crack, though.
They had a crack, but I would have liked to have seen them have a crack harder at stages rather than the green jersey.
Yeah, I reckon Jules Jensen could have won a stage.
He was mighty strong, wasn't he?
And Yates was maybe the worst tour selection out of every squad.
He was a break in the first week, wasn't
he? He didn't do anything, and then he crashed out. And there was an article that came out from Matt White on stage 4 or 5 saying Yates is doing prep for for the Olympics. Like, all right, we talked about pulling out for the Olympics, but going to the Tour de France is like a training event.
Yeah. And the best part about that is he's not going to the Olympics to represent Bike Exchange. So it's not like, he's here doing a warm-up with the team. He's going to head to the race with the team. No, he's going there with GB. So that was bizarre.
I was going to say my Olympic prep chat when we got to Astana, but I'm happy to bring it up to Simon Yates as well. It's the tour is bigger than the Olympics in my opinion.
Especially when we're not riding for nations here. We're riding for teams that have no real interest in an Australian team in a Brit winning the Olympics. But also, I just think like that spot was so valuable for Lucas to have one guy with the simple objective of like Cadell talked about Max. It was just like, that's where he had his George Hincapie. I don't know who the George Hincapie is of that team, but he had his George Hincapie to get him through that first week. And it was stressless. Someone just to mentor him, someone to take him around the bunch. And I think that's where he missed out. It looked like they were riding for bling the whole time, and Lucas was left doing his own thing a bit.
You needed the Estonian.
Gert, Tanel.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they should have just got Matt Heyman out of the car and put a number on him.
That's what they needed. They needed Heyman.
Yeah, they did.
If you started riding now, Heyman, it's probably as much prep as you had before his Paris-Roubaix. So
Yeah,
you've been fine.
yeah. I think it's a 1 for me.
I'll go 2.
1 for me.
Snip.
I think you have to rate TV time sometimes. You have to rate how aggressive teams are. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't think the aggression was allocated well.
Oh, that's what Cav said.
Yeah,
Cav couldn't believe their tactics.
Yeah.
Cav just like never. I just love the intermediate sprints where Matthews was going full noise to get 9 points, and then Cav's in the seat for 8. He's going,
Yeah.
okay. Astana Premier Tech. Were they in the race? Lutsenko.
Lutsenko saves from a really bad score here.
Izagirre was second on the day that Dylan Toons won. That was the only time that he was properly active.
Omar Frele
tried. And who else was there for them?
A guy named Jakob Fulsang was there.
Yep. I think he was citing that his AstraZeneca vaccine hindered his performance. Alex can testify for that too.
If he got the first AZ jab, I completely agree with him. But he was on number 2.
Yeah.
I just saying.
Yeah, that's the most astonishing thing ever, pulling out of the Champs-Élysées. And then he must have had an earlier flight to the Olympics.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, listen, he's done a lot of Tour de France. He's ridden to Paris before, but I imagine it's something you probably, to get that close, you'd want to do it. Something you wouldn't get sick of.
Can he tick it off? Can he tick off? I'm not sure. Let's say it's his 5th tour. Can he say, I did 5 tours?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
It's a 4 Tour de France rider. What score does it get them? Where did Lutsenko end up?
I think he was 6th.
No,
7th.
7th.
Mm.
It's pretty good from him. Like, really.
I didn't see him though.
But like, to Cambo's point about Mass, Kelderman, Bilbao, like they're all just thereabouts. No one was really doing anything.
Oh, well, I'd 2 then for the top 10.
2.
There's not going to be many big scores left, I don't think.
we chewed them off pretty early.
I think a 3. I think that the top 10 on the general is a really good result. But without that, they're almost a 0.
They could have been a 3, except I think Fulsang pulling out on the last stage gets them back to a 2 for me.
Old mate Aranbu, who I reckon we're all involved in WhatsApps and text messages around tour time. I reckon everyone tipped me Aranbu about 9 times on 9 different stages. Like,
yeah.
Everyone was saying he's going to get his legs. He's going to get his legs. He didn't get his legs.
Team Quebec and next hash. Sergio?
I haven't got much for you, to be honest, Alex.
Yeah. Wow. What were they doing?
Why do you not bring potentially a top 3 sprinter in the world for the Tour de France? And he would have beaten Cav at one of those sprints. He would have beaten Cav, Giacomo Nizzolo. Like, that's bizarre.
And he would have produced some real good odds for Maxi.
I'm just trying to think. When did I see them on screen?
Well, Hanau crashed a bit in the third.
Yep. Yep. At the back of the peloton, there was some camera time.
And Max Walshed, the big fella, I reckon Keno said something about him being 200 centimeters one time when he was in the break.
Yep.
Simon Clark made 1 breakaway.
Yes. Then he rode with a snapped back.
Who said? They asked him, why are you continuing to riding? And he said, well, it's the Tour de France. Not many other riders share that opinion when they get in there.
Definitely not Jakob Fuglsang. Yeah, I mean, they had Delimi there from South Africa. That was a bit of a talking point
in the lead up.
Got himself timed out. Sean Bennett made a breakaway. Quiet.
Yeah.
Probably a zero for me.
Because what they are a pro tour team. They're a top team.
Yeah.
So you got to harshly mark them a little bit. But
They're a rank above Albacete.
The team they brought, what were they thinking? Campanats was maybe him going out. He's potentially a stage winner there somewhere. I'm going 1.
Especially off the back of the Giro. I'm giving him a 0.
0.
I don't know where they get their marks.
Where's their 1 point, Max?
They're 1 point in their budget. They all got $3 each for going to the tour.
I can't seem to find any marks for them.
Unless we're giving out marks for social conscience and the great work that Doug Ryder is doing with the squad, the actual performance of the team and its riders is a flat 0.
Okay, who was the other 0?
DSM.
Yep.
DSM. I reckon Sergio Henao was better than Tej Benu. Like when we look at both of their GC riders and trying to stick with the group, Sergio Henao stuck with the group a bit more.
I feel like I saw him a couple of times. I feel like I can't recall where, but I feel like he was there. Still doesn't get a 1 though. I still don't think there's deserving points.
No, I agree.
This is the Tour de France. This is the best squad that you can assemble.
Good luck giving a score to the next 3 teams.
Team Total Direct Energy.
Yeah, the tour was busy in week number 3 and also in the first couple of days as well. He
was hilarious.
He was, wasn't he? He was erratic.
He got in a break by himself that stuck, I think it was 20 seconds in front of the peloton for about 15K. They saw him the whole time, and he was just sitting there in front of them, 100 meters in front.
Yeah, I'd bear a sword.
I actually thought he was going to finish top 5 after his first 2 days.
Yeah, he was electric, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Eddie the Boss failed to make an impact on the race, really.
Did he finish the race?
Not sure. Don't think so.
I think he got dropped from a breakaway one day. I think he was in the breakaway that Pollitt won, that Sweeney was 3rd. Didn't make that second move.
Yep. I think you're right, Alex.
Because I just remember that was the only time I heard him on the commentary, and they were talking about Eddie the Boss getting dropped. And I was like, it's just not the same, is it?
I mean, again, this is something that we've got to match up against expectations pre-tour as well.
Not a World Tour team.
Not a World Tour team. No real serious leader there. I mean, Pierre Latour probably is, but he was just being erratic. So
they're a 1 for me.
I think a 1 probably, maybe a 2, just given expectations were limited.
Yeah, I think a 1.
Okay,
let's sign that off. Intermarché Wanty Group.
I think
they lined up on the Champs for Van Poppel.
They're the best of those 4 teams we're talking about now. Oh no, actually B&B are probably bottom or I don't know. Actually, I don't know how I'm going to read this. Van Poppel was active, and Louis Menkes tried his hardest, and may have finished top 15. Did he, or top 20?
Tried his hardest. Do we allocate points for effort?
He finished top 15.
He finished 14th at 38 minutes.
And that is the lead GC rider for a pro tour team, a second-rate team. So I'm gonna be a little bit more friendly on Wanty, and I loved how they got on the front at times as well. So I'll go. No, they're a 1. I tried to talk him into a 2. I couldn't do it.
I mean, how long did Jan Bakalans survive as well? I don't know how long he was there, but you might have expected him to be active throughout the tour. I know he's 35 now, and he got through the tour, and he finished 8th on stage. What stage was that? I don't actually remember that. Him making somewhat of an impact when Conrad won. Young Bakalans was 8th. It's a 1.
From the move.
It's a 1.
The real question is, the B&B hotels, the third of the tier 2 squads, get anything above a 1? Can they?
Bonamore, I understand the amount of kilometres he rode in the break, so he gets most combative, which is technically maybe a realistic goal for them going into the tour, to get most combative.
Yeah.
They got Pierre Rollin, was a bizarre tour from him. Didn't really fire a shot. And then they had another fella starting with P. I'll just try and find it. Quinton Pasher, who was impressive. It's Cockard didn't get injured as well. We didn't see him before he got injured, but potentially he might have got good. I thought they were okay, but they're a 1 as well.
Yep, I think a 1.
Although all our French listeners are going to be very disappointed in
They'll be fuming.
They'll be fuming. That's the wrap.
That's the wrap. So I ask you this question. I did a little bit of like a top 10. I love my top 10s. Who is your most impressive 5 riders to come out of the tour? Like I've done a 10. I'll just go through them quickly just to give you guys a. So I said Van Aert was number 1, then Pog, then Mohoric I think was better than Cav. So Mohoric 3, Cav 4, Vingegaard 5, Poles 6, Morkov 7th, O'Connor 8th, Van der Poel 9th, Rafa Marca 10th.
Don't know if Rafa Marca would fit into my top 10.
Well, outside of the 10, there's not much. There's Conrad who won a stage. Carapaz who came 3rd. Maybe one of them could have beaten Rafa Marca. You're probably right.
I think two clear ones on the GC front. Vingegaard and O'Connor just establishing themselves as GC riders. That's a big deal for those 2 squads and those 2 athletes moving forward. And I think Vingegaard too, just the ability to take the opportunity. Everything had to go right. Rog had to crash out and whatnot early enough for him to take that on, but he took that on and delivered. That's huge. But at the same time, Van Aert, like, it's just out of control.
And Mohoric, simply from their brilliance. Like Mohoric was the most entertaining rider for about 2 weeks there.
Yeah.
And remember, Campbell, we used to talk about this all the time, Mohoric, because he won Worlds the first year that we were there. And I wasn't there that year. You were there, Campbell. And after that, we're like, oh my God, this guy is out of control. Like, he's just going to crush everything. And he just went missing. He went to Liquigas, I think, and just did nothing.
Yeah. Well, he went back-to-back under-19 Worlds, under-23 Worlds, straight into the World Tour. And then, he kind of was in the wilderness a little bit, but he did pop up here and there. But one-day races, it's really his jam. And the way he rides some of these stages in Grand Tours, he just goes after it like there is no tomorrow. I think he's probably in my top 5 too. I've gone Vingegaard as number 1.
Yeah, right.
Cav, followed by O'Connor, Wout van Aert, winning the Mont Ventoux stage, bunch kick and torching the TT. And then Mohoric for his 2 really, really strong stage wins and his animation. He rounds out my top 5.
Did Stiff not to get one of those Bora guys in there?
Conrad better than Pollitt?
I feel like Pollitt was felt throughout, not just that stage, but he was in and around other bits and pieces.
Yeah, okay. And then Kelderman, maybe. No. I reckon Morkov was the domestique, even though I'm not sure if you can call a sprint trainer domestique. I think he was the domestique of the tour. Castroveo was probably stiff to not be in there as well, just because he was the only one with Ineos who was riding well.
They never really had like that proper right hand man. Kwiatkowski had a day of it. Castroviejo did a little bit. Teo had one good day. But Richie and Grant never really chipped in, did they?
It's normally the role of discovery for Ineos as the right-hand man. Like who's gonna show themselves as the guy that looks after our leader, because he normally turns into the leader. But they just never had it.
What did we just a review on our top threes? I was Pog, Carapaz, and Gadoo. Happy with two of them, obviously. And Gadoo showed me the reason why I picked him for third in the third week.
Yeah,
but I should have gone safer because when one of you went Uran, I think it was you, Campbell.
No, I infamously went Yon Izagira.
Was it you, Alex, that went?
Yeah, I went with Rog, Carapaz, Uran.
Yeah, I remember when Rig was doing so well in the second week, sitting third. I'm like, Alex said this.
Yeah,
I
think I went Pog, Thomas, and Izagira, just as a really wild one. You know, if it comes off, you're a genius, and if it doesn't, you're just.
Well, it almost came off, Cambo. You almost got up there. Any final words? Any final questions before we close off another year? Feels like this is like the end of financial year for cycling, post Tour de France.
A little bit.
The first event post tour. What is it? The tour? The
Bologna.
Yeah. The Volta coming. Volta's always exciting.
Yeah, it's always around the corner. But I guess the Olympics this weekend is going to be a really good watch.
Yeah, hot, 30 degrees, hilly course, high altitude.
National teams.
Yeah, national teams. The Slovenia is so strong. Young Polanc.
Is your man Tratnik on the start list?
Polanc is the only one they're taking, so he's their domestique. The Germans have Geschke as their domestique. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to help too much. The Aussies, are you thinking? Portkin, Hamilton, who is it? Rowan Dennis will go strong in the TTs.
Yeah, he's a good chance for a medal in the TT, but I think for the road race, Lucas had that crash. Richie didn't look like he was, in top shape. Maybe he was just lacking a little bit of motivation once Carapaz couldn't win. So yeah, I don't know whether we'll be really able to make an impact in the road race.
I think our only hope is that Lucas has freshened up and just somehow come out of that a little bit of a rut that he was in the first week of the tour in Super Nick, and his shoulder holds up well. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing a whole lot out of Richie based off how he was going to the tour.
Slightly hilly course to TT as well, so Garner and Van Aert might come back to the pack a tiny bit.
Don't you remember what Van Aert did on Vontu?
Yeah, but in the stage 5 TT, it was a tiny little bit lumpier, and he did.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be Pogacar is the favourite for sure. He has to be.
It's hot though, Campbell.
It is. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see Rowan Dennis's impact after taking the training approach. No Tour de France for him. See how that comes out.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, Campbell.
Thanks, Alex. Pleasure as always.
Talk to you soon.